Hey folks, Nathan here. Sixth episode of these mini Q&As being recorded on the same night, and it's freaking hot. And for some reason, everything just went a little bit red there, and I think it's because it's so hot. You can tell I'm kind of red here. I'm not usually this pink, but it's a little warm in here as I'm handling a bunch of these questions for multiple episodes of the mini Q&A here. So please forgive the same shirt over and over and the reddishness because, my God, it is hot up in this room. Hottest room in the house, and I had to turn it into the one that's my office and Star Wars collection room. Smart. So we're continuing on with questions from that original comment section in the video where I asked for questions in the first place. If you want to ask new questions, feel free to ask new questions in the comments on this video or any of the previous of these mini Q&A ones. And as I'm gathering questions, I'll gather them from those, use some or all, depending on how many there are, in future mini Q&A episodes. I try to aim for these to be smaller than a vlog Q&A episode would be, with a few questions each, but some interesting topics for discussion. I try to give each question sort of a nice, involved answer rather than just being kind of quick in and out for the answers themselves. We start with a question from Geege1138, who says, I've got one mundane and one Star Wars. The mundane question, he asks, is what's your favorite food? And then the Star Wars question is, would you be interested in a story that centers on the rise of the First Order, or do you think the background that has been laid out so far is sufficient? Let's see. So the first question, what's my favorite food? That is a question I don't think I've been asked on a Q&A before. I would say like Japanese hibachi stuff I really like. Not really big into sushi or anything like that, sushi or sashimi. But definitely love the like hibachi dinners and stuff like that, the vegetables, the steaks. There's a decent place, actually a really good place near us. There was a decent one. Now there's a really good one that's near us called Nico that we really like, that we even do takeout for often. We're the people who go in and order like the hibachi dinners and then give us like 2 or 3 extra soups because damn, that's good. But actually when I lived in my hometown, there was a business that's now closed called Nagasaki, right? Named after the city that, or one of the 2 cities that got atomic bombed in World War II. But it was the Nagasaki Inn. And they were also a Japanese hibachi place, a place my dad introduced us to when I was in middle school, which sort of got me to eat different styles of food that I really, really loved. And it became kind of a tradition to eat there. And theirs is always a little bit more salty than the stuff at the places I've gone to recently. So I always will have a fondness for them. Plus, they're the only Japanese hibachi place I've ever been to that gave you, among the different sides and different stuff you get, like the vegetables and everything, along with the regular vegetables, also had the option of cabbage or bean sprouts and got me to actually eat bean sprouts, which I really, really like when done as stir fry, but I can almost never around here find a place to buy friggin' bean sprouts to do my own. So Japanese hibachi stuff. I also have a real fondness for hard shell tacos and for chili. So it seems like spiciness is a thing. Not super spicy, but something with at least a little bit of a kick is something I dig. And as far as like snacks go, I adore Starburst, but I can't eat them anymore. Too many crowns on my teeth, probably from eating too many damn Starbursts. But then beyond that, popcorn. Lots and lots and lots of popcorn. As for would I be interested in seeing a story that centers on the rise of the First Order? Yes, I'd love to see an origin story for the First Order. I think that'd be a very interesting tale. I'd love to see how the transition from the Empire to the First Order is handled, where Snoke comes into things, how things tie into the end of what we've got for Empire's End, and kind of see if there's a parallel in how they do it between, kind of like in real life, you've got the Nazis and neo-Nazis. There's already the parallel in Star Wars of the Empire and the First Order, kind of as an allegory to that. Is the interim also allegorical to it as well? I think that'd be really kind of cool to see. But I had to kind of laugh at the latter part of the question. Or do you think the background that has been laid out so far is sufficient? What background? They damn near done nothing with giving us any background on the First Order. There's very, very little that we've gotten so far, and it's frustrating as hell. So no, they definitely have not given us enough. But my guess is there'll be enough revelations coming up in Episode 9 that they'll then feel free to give us the background. If it's not going to be the subject of its own TV series or, book series or movies or whatever, they'll finally start to delve into it at least a little bit. But I don't expect answers anytime quite so soon. I figure Episode 9 will be out of the way first. But yeah, they need to give us more of an explanation than what we've got. There's not enough. The next question, timeline related, a little bit involved, comes from Senator Confer, who did quite a few questions in a previous episode. Says, sorry for asking another question along with my previous 4. But I want to know your stance on adaptations when you made the Star Wars Timeline Gold. That, of course, is my big Star Wars chronology document, over 3,000 pages, over at StarWarsFanWars.com/timeline, that I worked on for over 20 years, almost 21 years, but ended this past August. So that giant timeline document. He says, if you answer this in response to my previous comment, please skip and move on to someone else. I don't need to hog up the time. Nope. I'm pretty sure this is a question I haven't answered yet. I went on and on and on, and yet somehow didn't answer this as part of it. What do you consider an adaptation of something else? If it came first, if it was the main thing that is more well known, the movie novelizations are considered adaptations, despite the majority being released before their respective films release. Not anymore, but certainly back in the day. I asked because I wanted to know where you would hypothetically put the Clone Wars revival stuff if you happen to continue the timeline, that is, and those episodes made of Son of Dathomir, Dark Disciple, or both, that those were made. There's just a lot that I'm unaware of, and I'd love to hear how you came to your decisions. Again, apologies if this seems invasive or odd, but your timeline has a very enjoyable format for me that probably makes me sound even weirder. No, formats are cool. I mean, I enjoy formats of things more than others, certainly. And I love hearing you talk about the minutiae of timeline making. So, to me, it's a question of, like, what was the intent? It's not about what came first, because you're right. Then you'd have instances where, and it's funny. It's the anniversary that I always correct people on. 1977, and everything. That's when Star Wars began, right? So the 40th anniversary is 2017. Well, yeah, of the film, but the anniversary of Star Wars is the anniversary of the original release of the novelization of A New Hope that came out months before the film in the latter part of 1976. So technically, 2016 was the 40th anniversary of Star Wars, just not of the theatrical release. But yeah, so in that case, it's not going to be what comes first. It really comes down, to some degree, for a while there, it was like the levels of canon, right? You had G level, T level, C level, S level, N level within Legends. So you had that hierarchy, and the idea that, of course, the film is going to take a higher precedence over something that is like a novel or something else that is adapting it. And they talked about that a lot when it came to how to resolve discrepancies, right? The novelization of The Empire Strikes Back calls Yoda blue. The film has him as green. Yoda's freaking green, right? That sort of thing. Back when you could sort of subdivide the G-level canon sort of into the newer version of the film, the previous version of the film, the original version of the film, the novelization, the radio dramas, and so on, as far as how accurate you could take anything that was in any particular one in relation to the others. So that kind of helped determine it. But a lot of it, just like I said, came down to intent, right? Like, no one's going to say The Last Jedi is a movie based on a book, right? The Last Jedi book is an adaptation of the film. It's a novelization of the film. The comic with that god-awful artwork, like they hated the film or something, is an adaptation of the film, because the film was the original product that the other ones are being based on during their own creative process. So, for instance, if it came down to, we actually got episodes, for instance, for Dark Disciple, episodes, for the episodes that would have made up Son of Dathomir when they were originally going to be episodes, I would consider the comic and the novel to be adaptations of the episodes, even if the episodes actually came out later, because those scripts were the original source that were being adapted into those other media. Oh, time to be disappointing. We have a question here from Mr. JakeBoy24, who asks, what is your lightsaber collection like? And before I say, asking a man about his lightsaber, isn't that a little personal? The second part of my answer is, you're going to be disappointed. I don't really have one, basically. There was a time when they were doing those little teeny tiny master replicas ones, and I thought, I might actually collect those. And I had a few of them. I'm like, screw it, they're not really doing it anymore. Bye. I don't know what happened to them. I don't know if I sold them off or what. They're not around here anymore. But the one that I have is the one that I've actually shown on the channel. It is the Anakin / Luke, kind of Maz / Rey lightsaber for the master replicas of, or I guess not even master replicas. It was the Force Effects one from Hasbro or whatever. That you light up, and then you can bang it against stuff, and it makes sounds slightly out of sync with when you actually bang it on stuff. And that's really the only one that I have. I have it as sort of a display piece. And oddly enough, it's not in my Star Wars office. Of all things, the lightsaber isn't in here because we've got all these little DVD shelves about yay tall, all lined up in our living room. And on top of those shelves is the lightsaber because it goes across most of the width. It's alongside a toy of my favorite Doctor, the 11th Doctor's sonic screwdriver. Some little BB-8s that we've acquired over time of different types, but never the Sphero one. The box set of the entire series of Smallville on DVD. It was DVD. I can't remember if it's DVD or Blu-ray. May actually be Blu-ray. And the cool ring you could get at one point that was tied into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where it's almost looks like a class ring, and it's got the shield symbol on one side, but you take it off and you look underneath the shield symbol, and it's the symbol of Hydra underneath. So all those are kind of together on top of those shelves, kind of like this stuff is on top of these shelves, except it looks much more orderly in the other room. But that's it. I mean, as far as lightsabers go, that's all I've got, unless you count having a Force FX, or not a Force FX, a Deco light of Vader's lightsaber next to a Deco light of Vader's helmet on the wall opposite where I'm recording here. No real lightsabers to speak of. I've always wanted the stuff that I collected to be a little more functional. So books, home video releases, games, stuff like that. I don't tend to have very many opportunities to take a lightsaber and start fighting with it or playing around with it. So as a display piece, it just kind of sits there, and in that sense doesn't wind up doing me a whole lot of good. Then another question comes in from Robert Medina, who asks, would you consider doing an episode of From the Star Wars Home Video Library regarding DVD Easter eggs? I know the individual prequel DVD releases had an Easter egg. My favorite was Yoda breakdancing, and the original trilogy box set did. Did these Easter eggs ever show up in later releases? Love the show. Thanks. I hadn't really thought about doing Easter eggs as an episode. I guess I could, maybe a supplemental episode or an intermission episode or something. Might be something to look into. I'm not sure if there's really enough Easter eggs to really speak of for Star Wars releases, though. So beyond the prequel DVDs and the original DVD set, and maybe you could call The Faithful Wookiee the holiday special cartoon with Boba Fett on the Complete Saga set. I don't really know there's a lot of DVD and Blu-ray Easter eggs to really talk about for Star Wars. But maybe this would be a good time for somebody to mention them down in the comments, and maybe there are more of them that I realize or that I'm remembering at the time of this recording. Certainly worth a thought, though I don't know if there'd be enough to do an episode. And then finally, the last question posted as of the time that I'm recording these, 6 freaking episodes on the same night in the same clothes and burning myself up in the middle of the night. This question comes in from actually a guy who's helped me a lot recently in pointing out some different Star Wars home video releases and whatnot that are on the market, and someone who I wish well in his search for all of the many, many different region versions of droids on VHS. I had a hard enough time getting them on UK VHS to complete that set, let alone trying to look at other regions. So my hat's off to you for trying to find it. And this is Arnar Christiansen, who is the person asking our last question here. He asks, how likely is it, now that the second edition of A Saga on Home Video will have all items rephotographed in color, that it'll be called A Saga on Home Video Special Edition? So that was not the plan to call it Special Edition. I was going to call it Second Edition, right? Because that's what it is, the Second Edition. But I may have to blend them together now, and I think he's just cemented it for me. My plan, my thought, if you haven't seen the book, this is it, right? So it's the book that I put out for basically around the 40th anniversary. So I put it out in 2017. It's a history of Star Wars home video releases in the U.S. done as a narrative, lots and lots of detail. But from a cost standpoint, I did all the images initially in grayscale because I didn't want to make the cost so much that people wouldn't check out the book. Then I heard from enough people that they thought that a color version would be worth the extra cost, especially for collectors, because if you're already buying a book this niche, you're going to be willing to pay a few extra bucks for the color. I'm now working on a second edition that will include more content, keeping up with new releases and whatnot, new sidebars and everything, but also have all the pictures in full color. Hence, as I showed in a previous mini Q&A, buying a light box and retaking all the pictures for the book. Hundreds of pictures for the book. But I did it to look like a VHS tape. right? Got some good advice from Brian Snook, and got the VHS layout here working well. The back looks like the back of a VHS tape, looks like the side of a VHS tape. And I wasn't quite sure how I was going to set it up. Whether it was going to say second edition up here, have it on one of those little stickers, those like red, awful, like god-awful reddish, pinkish stickers you would see on a VHS tape or something, saying like second edition off to the side. But now that he said a special edition, I wonder if I should blend it together. I don't want to call it special edition. I do want to call it second edition. But maybe the tag at the bottom would, or on the back would be, read it again for the first time. And if it is that tag, I blame Arnar now. I like it. I like that a lot. All right, so this is a little bit shorter than the other episodes, but we're actually through all the initial questions that were asked on the original video that was posted back on November 22nd of 2018. So next up, as we get into more of these mini Q&A episodes, I will start bringing in questions from the comments underneath the previous releases of these mini Q&A episodes. We are finally caught up to that point, thanks to me recording like 6 or however many of these in one night to get through all the questions from November 22nd's video posted. So I'm going to take that video, I'm going to deactivate it, so if you're looking for it and wondering where the hell it is, it's gone. I'm going to deactivate it so that people aren't still posting on that particular one at this point, and start grabbing questions from the comments on these other mini Q&A videos, including this one. So if you have questions for a future episode of these little mini Q&As, feel free to ask it in the comments down below. I will do my best not to answer questions through regular replying in the comments and try to hold questions for future episodes of the mini Q&A unless they are so pressing I know that they need to be answered well before I would ever get a chance to record that particular question for a Q&A. But I'll try to keep the more timely ones to the ones that'll pop up sooner. So with that, thank you for watching this little mini Q&A. Thank you for following along so far in the episodes in this series, all recorded on the same night. I swear to God, the next time you see one of these episodes, I will have a different freaking shirt on finally. And maybe some different light, because maybe it'll be daytime when I record. But good luck with that when you got a baby in the house. With that, though, thank you for watching. Thank you for your questions. Hopefully, you've got some questions you might want to have answered or some comments you might want to toss out to have replied to. Within reason, of course. Drop them into the comments on this or any of the previous episodes, and we'll see you soon with more of these mini Q&A episodes. Now, I need to get a drink. I need to go to bed, and hopefully my voice will still exist tomorrow. Thanks for watching.